In today's Leeds news, Guilavogui next step, Gelhardt speaks on exit, more news on Elvedi, Archie Gray Blunder, and Alvyn Sanches latest. Morning folks, welcome to The View. Jer here on Thursday morning the 16th of January with your Leeds United news. A couple of little updates for tonight. Ben Jacobs from Give Me Sport will be joining me at 5:30 for a live stream here on the channel to look at Leeds January business. I've got a couple of questions already set to him and a couple of the linked names floating around so he can get some news on that, but we'll have a full proper January update from Ben Jacobs at 5:30, and then 7 p.m. tonight Andrew Stats Dalton will join me for another live stream on the channel to look ahead to the weekend's game against Sheffield Wednesday. But there's a little bit of news floating around today and we'll start off and get stuck into this, and the first one relates to a story coming out around Josh Guilavogui. And Joshua Guilavogui only came into Leeds in October, but he's had a really solid impact on the team and in the dressing room despite only playing a handful of minutes for the club. But Guilavogui was only brought in as cover for the injured Ilya Gruev and Ethan Ampadu, who are both now back in full team training and both back on the park getting minutes. So what next for Guilavogui? Well, reports today in France suggest that Joshua Guilavogui's next move could be back to his home country of France and a move to fellow Red Bull affiliated club Paris FC. Journaux Photo in France claimed that Paris FC, who are affiliated to the Red Bull organisation, are also looking at doing a deal for Josh Guilavogui this month. Daniel Farke did say prior to Guilavogui coming into Leeds United that whoever came in on the free transfer would need to understand the brief. And the brief was to come in and fill a hole while we had two central defensive midfielders out of action. And after that, would need to step aside for the injured players returning, which to me was an unusual statement to make, given that you should be playing players based on form and ability and not based on a pre-existing standard before they got injured. But that was my take on it. But Guilavogui's leadership and his presence behind the scenes have been noted. A lot of players have spoken about the help that he's given them, the advice that he has given them, and Leeds have a very young side, as we're told, on a continuous basis, and losing an experienced head in the dressing room, even if it's only in the dressing room after losing Dallas Cooper ailing last season, would be seen as a big mistake for me. And at this point in the year, Leeds need to be keeping what they have. Charlie Crew's gone out on loan. We're not expecting a big month, maybe one or two players to come in, if even. So it would be a smart move to keep hold of this. But it does, Jonas Photo does say that Paris FC are exploring and working on a deal to bring Josh Guilavogui to the club this January. Now, he's only played for one club this year, so he could move. There's an affiliate agreement between Leeds and Red Bull, so maybe he moves for nothing. Maybe he doesn't move at all. And I would be surprised if Daniel Farke lets a player who is very much having an impact behind the scenes walk away at this stage and hamstring him coming into the back end of the season. Moving on to an exit from the club, and yesterday we saw Joe Gelhardt's an exit away from Leeds United, and Hull City's newest attacker, Joe Gelhardt, completed his move yesterday to the Tigers and was speaking for the first time about the move and admitted that he was frustrated with the lack of minutes he had at Leeds United and is desperate to make up for lost time. Gelhardt made 2 starting appearances under Daniel Farke in the 2 years, 18 months that Daniel Farke has been in charge at Leeds United. And they were at the start of last season when Leeds pretty much had no team at that point. And since then, he has been played as a right winger, a 10, a 9, barely played at all. And wasn't really in the matchday squad. Daniel Farke talking before the Harrogate FA Cup game about Gelhardt forcing his way back into the squad, when the reality was Pat Bamford was out injured and Gelhardt just filled the spot that Bamford was holding. So an exit from Leeds always looked likely. And he has a debut lined up against Millwall this Saturday. On the move, Gelhardt said the following: "I'm really excited to work with the manager. He sees me playing off the 9, maybe off the right or just behind. My best positions are striker or just behind the striker, trying to help assist and score goals for the team and trying to win games." Gelhardt went on to speak about the frustration of his time at Leeds in the last couple of years and his lack of minutes, saying the following: "Every footballer wants to train hard all week and get rewarded with playing at the weekend. That hasn't happened for me in the last 2 years. So I'm really excited to get playing again and get that match day feeling back." I think everyone's excited to see Joffy go and get some football. He's only 22 years of age, and that gets forgotten. He's the same age as Mateo Joseph, or just a little bit older than Mateo Joseph, and it gets forgotten about pretty easily. There's still time for Joe Gelhardt. If you can get a bit of form, get a bit of confidence, you never know what happens. And, you know, we'll see what happens with his move, how it goes for him this year, and then what happens in the summer with him as well. And moving on to an unlikely signing at this point of the year, but one that keeps popping up and I would be all behind this one, and the next story relates to Nico Elvedi from Borussia Mönchengladbach. Leeds have been linked a lot with this player who has got a relationship with Daniel Farke from the past and would give Leeds a solution to the right centre-back lack of depth that they've currently got. Today, reports in Germany suggest that Leeds are still keen and still maintain an interest in the Borussia Mönchengladbach centre-back. Bills say that Leeds are monitoring the situation and the progress of Nico Elvedi over a potential move this month. Elvedi wants a move in the summer. That has been said to be his preference, and if it is Leeds, he would prefer to go to Leeds United in the Premier League rather than the Championship, and the same has been said for a potential move to La Liga. He wants to move to the top end rather than the bottom end. But Gladbach are named as shopping in the January market for a new centre-back, and that could leave the door open to free up Nico Elvedi for a potential move to Leeds. They've been interested in Max Verber before. Maybe there's a swap deal there. You take Verber, we take Elvedi. We get a centre-back that wants to be at the club. You get the player that you want, and we go and get a left-back. But an £8 million fee at this stage has been mentioned, and with the PSR timing that we're at this time of the year with PSR, it seems that will factor into any decision. Leeds are not paying £15 million to £20 million for Lati Lab because of that reason as well, and an £8 million fee at this point of the year seems unlikely. If Leeds are going to do any moves, it looks likely to be loans with options to buy players in the future. The report does go on to state that there is no deal near any form of completion at this stage, but that an opportunity to sign a player of that calibre is something that Leeds wouldn't ignore should it become available. It'll be interesting to see what Gladbach do. Keep an eye on their signings over the next couple of weeks and see if they bring in any in. We'll see about that. But a player left Leeds in the summer, myself, everybody wasn't overly happy about, was Archie Gray, and the Leeds United ownership were quick to remind fans in the summer that when Gio Rutter and Crescencio Somerville left the club with exit clauses in their deals, that wasn't done during their time and it wouldn't happen again. But they were involved in the new deal that Archie Gray signed that had a £40 million exit clause that Spurs activated and brought the player in the summer. But there have also been fresh reports and fresh information that's come out around the Gray exit that don't stand up too well. Graham Smith was replying to a fan question where the fan asked if Leeds United had a sell-on clause in Archie Gray's deal, to which the Yorkshire Evening Post chief reporter replied, "There is nothing of the sort." Despite Spurs' poor showing this season and injury problems that they have, Gray, who's been operating as a centre-back, has caught the eye of Real Madrid, if the rumours are to be believed, with some excellent performances coming out from the back this season. Leeds knew that Archie Gray had a very high ceiling. Real Madrid was even being talked about at the time when he was leaving Leeds. And not inserting a sell-on clause in his deal seems a little bit naive to me, but it should be pointed out that you don't get everything you want in a transfer, and it's a negotiation for a reason. There are things that people want and people don't want. Spurs would obviously look at Archie Gray and potential sell-on value of him as well, and they wouldn't want to be giving Leeds any additional money for that sale, and would possibly would have just refused point blankly to have a sell-on clause put in. So it's not always on Leeds' door, but it does feel to me like a missed opportunity. Smith replied to a tweet that said, "Do we have a sell-on clause?" And Smith replied, "Alas, no." It's a real miss for me if Gray does move to a club for big money this year, or the best case scenario is Archie runs down his deal over the next 5 years and returns to Leeds United on a free transfer when Leeds become an established Premier League club. That would be the dream to see, but it's unlikely to happen. But it is a bit of a miss for me. I mean, it might not be the end of the world going forward, but it is a miss. And you're talking about maybe 5-10% sell-on clause, depending on what he goes for. Might be chump change if Leeds are in the Premier League by that stage anyway. But still, you want to kind of put these things in place, don't you? And then moving on to the final story of the day, and a possible throwaway link that came out a few weeks ago, but has found its way back with more reports coming out about Leeds' link to this player. Leeds have continued to be linked with a move for the talented attacking midfielder Alvyn Sanches, who plays his football with Swiss side Lausanne. And Leeds have been said to have been watching the player in what has been labelled as an impressive breakout season for the young attacking midfielder. Lausanne sport coach Ludwig Magnin recently described Sanches, saying, "For many experts, he is the greatest talent in Swiss football." Sanches has recently changed agencies, which has increased the speculation around his future. He's seen as one of Europe's best up-and-coming young players right now. But Magnin accepts that he's already a big fish in a small pond, and does expect the player to leave, saying the following: "He's still here, but anyone who knows the business knows that there are no certainties. That's why I won't be making any big statements until first. But the player has clearly communicated that he wants to stay with us until the summer." Lausanne are in line to potentially win their first league title in quite some time, and Sanches has been labelled as a player who could pick up the Player of the Year award as well. both things the clubs will want to get done and dusted before any kind of a move happens, and the player might be just willing to stick it out with them until the end of the season. It does to me feel like a move that Leeds might make in the summer, bringing in a young attacking midfielder, add a bit more dynamism to what they've got. Again, you could bring him off the bench then and interchange him with whoever else you've got in those attacking areas. So he's a very good player, Alvyn Sanches, but he is playing in the Swiss League, that should be said. But he has a high ceiling. There's a lot of talk about him, a lot of potential there. But this link does feel to me like something that potentially could happen in the summer if it happens at all. Folks, that'll be it for me today. Massive thanks as always for supporting the channel. Back at 5:30 tonight with Ben Jacobs to talk about the January transfer window and if Leeds will do anything at all this window. We'll get some information from Ben then. I'm back at 7 then after that for the match preview with Andrew Stats Dalton. And I'll talk to you then. See you later. Bye.